Hello, hello. This is Saturday, the 21st of January. I'm Kevin Thomas, and I'm doing the daily recording of me reading something every day. I got some great comments today or last night at least, concerning what I did with the Breaking Bad excerpt that I read, which was that I have to be more engaged and believe in my character. Excuse me. Just had some coffee. Not beer, I swear. Great comments about me being more believable in my character, and engaging with my character, trusting my character more, trusting the words more. Some really great comments. Boy, do I appreciate that. You know. Um, so I'm going to work on being a little bit more. Forgive me. I'm trying to get rid of a bunch of screens right now as I notice that my machine operates a little faster when I try to do that. So how come I didn't do that before I got on? Started doing this. Hey, listen, cut me some slack, okay? When you're pointing your finger, you got three fingers pointing back at you. So there. Anyway, so I am going to now read a couple of things. I'm going to read from the Writer's Almanac for the 21st, this Saturday, today. For those people who haven't heard Garrison Keillor do the little 5-minute snippet that he does from the Writer's Almanac, I hope you folks have a chance to check it out. He's wonderful. He's so wonderful at what he does. It's touching. And then I'm going to read a review I did last night of a play that I went to go see by a woman named Rachel Kaiser, um, which was called My Voice. And I'll read what I wrote. I appreciated seeing it. I have such a problem um, with Christian plays, and that's what this one was particularly. It's a particularly Christian play. I don't know what my problem is with it. I'm just gonna have to spend. I'm gonna have to spend time figuring out why that turns me off so much. Because I mention God all the time, all the time, and if it's good enough for me, certainly anybody should be able to do it, right? And so does it bother me that it's not my God that she's talking about? I don't know. I just know that through the worst periods of my life, um, I sing God's praises for whatever. If shit's going shitty for me, I still say thank you, God. Whatever. That's me. That's my thing. That's my baggage. Anyway, let us do the Writer's Almanac. Writer's Almanac for January the 21st, 2012. On this date in 1952, William Shawn took up the reins of the New Yorker. After the death of his predecessor and the magazine's founder, Harold Ross. Ross, a lifetime heavy smoker, was diagnosed with cancer of the windpipe the previous summer. In December, Ross went up to Boston for surgery to remove his right lung and died of heart failure on the operating table. William Shawn edited the magazine for 35 years thereafter. Shawn guided the magazine toward a more serious tone. He was quiet and gentle, but on this point and many others, he was firm. He wanted the New Yorker to reflect a new awareness among its writers and readers. In the 1960s, Dorothy Parker criticized the magazine's lack of humor, and Shawn himself later expressed some regret that he hadn't had more humorists on staff. But in 1975, New York Times book critic John Leonard said, Shawn changed the New Yorker from a smarty pants parish tip sheet into a journal that altered our experience instead of just posturing in front of it. France's King Louis XVI was beheaded in Paris on this date in 1793, one of the tens of thousands of victims of the French Revolution. He had ascended to the throne in 1774 when he was just 20 years old, and he had inherited a mess. The kingdom was nearly bankrupt, the result of lavish spending by his predecessors. He was well liked by his subjects at first, although they were unhappy with his wife because she was a foreigner, Marie Antoinette of Austria. He was intelligent and compassionate, but he was indecisive and conservative in military action. That's why I think I would be a really terrible president. It'd be hard for me to make decisions. It just would. Be with, I'd listen to somebody, brilliant person, smarter than myself, and I go, that's great. And then I hear somebody just as smart on the other side saying, and I go, wow, that's really great. It's up to me, So God bless him. In 1788, the unemployment rate in Paris was approaching 50%. Crops were failing and food prices were skyrocketing. Crippling bouts of depression left the king unable to make important decisions. The Estates General, which was the national legislative assembly, curtailed his powers to such a degree that he was virtually under house arrest. He and his family attempted an escape in 1791, but were captured in 1792. The newly elected National Convention declared France a republic and formally arrested the king for treason. He was indicted in December, tried and convicted on January 15, 1793, and sentenced to death by guillotine on January 20th, with the sentence to be carried out the next day. He spent his last evening with his family. The former king arose early, around 5 o'clock on the cold, wet morning of January 21st. Louis's valet helped him dress, and he was brought to an Irish priest, Henry Essex Edgeworth, who heard his last confession and administered the Mass. By 8, he was brought to a green carriage in the courtyard of the Temple prison. He asked Father Edgeworth to accompany him, and the two men took their seats in the carriage opposite a pair of gendarmes for the 2-hour ride to the Palace of Revolution. They recited psalms together as the carriage moved in procession, led by drummers to drown out any expressions of support for the king. Citizens armed with pikes and guns lined the procession's route, shouting epithets. The king stepped out of the carriage and removed his outer garments, refusing any offers of help, and folded them neatly. The gendarmes made a move to bind his hands, but Louis recoiled in horror, and a struggle seemed imminent until Father Edgeworth reminded him that Jesus had suffered his hands to be bound on Good Friday. Louis hesitated. "With a handkerchief, sire," added Charles Sanson, the executioner, in a tone of respect. Finally, the king agreed. "So be it, then. That too, my God," Louis said with resignation, and offered his hands to be bound. He leaned on Edgeworth's arms as he made his way over the rough path to the scaffold, but he ascended the steps alone, with strength and determination. Upon reaching the top, he addressed his people. "I die innocent of all the crimes laid to my charge. I pardon those who have occasioned my death, and I pray to God that the blood you are going to shed may never be visited on France." He would have said more, but a man on horseback called for the drums, and the crowd began to call for the execution, which was hastily carried out. A young guard picked up the severed head and promenaded it through the scaffold. The stunned silence was broken with a cry of "Vive la République," and before long thousands of voices were cheering the death of the king. Here's a poem by Ted Kooser called "At the Cancer Clinic." She is being helped toward the open door that leads to the examining rooms by two young women I take to be her sisters. Each bends to the weight of an arm and steps with the straight, tough bearing of courage. At what must seem to be a great distance, the nurse holds the door, smiling and calling encouragement. How patient she is in the crisp white sails of her clothes. The sick woman peers from under her funny knit cap to watch each foot swing, scuffling forward to take its turn under her weight. There is no restlessness or impatience or anger anywhere in sight. Grace fills the clean mold of this moment, and all the shuffling magazines grow still. At the Cancer Clinic by Ted Kooser from his book Delights and Shadows, published by Copper Canyon Press, 2004, reprinted with permission for this show. Production credits: host is Garrison Keillor. The writers are Betsy Allister, Priscilla Kinter, Heather McPherson, and Holly Vanderhaar. Technical director Thomas Schweitzer. Engineer Noah Smith. Coordinator Nick Vetter. And permissions are obtained by Miss Kathy Roach. And I swear I know who that is. As Garrison Keillor always says, be well, do good work, and keep in touch.